I started my career working as a part-time RJ, going to Times of India as a designer, then Cognizant, then PayPal. I was getting 5,000 rupees salary. To when I quit my job, I was having a salary package of where around 75 lakhs. It's very interesting take on startups that everybody wants to build and make on, right? But I really want to be a cockroach. You put it inside a microwave oven, you put it on a tawa, it goes, it just sustains. Without head, without food, it just lives for 4-5 days. People ask me, are you building an unicorn? I'm definitely looking forward to build a big business where you sustain, you are recession proof, you make profit.
You did a project in US, right? Like how teenagers become pregnant.
When I look at 14-year old girls who are pregnant, you're obviously not okay. Then I realize how normalized it is in some part of the world that to have such unawareness. When you're in India and then look at it, you'd be like, why? It's a very common scene if you go to very interior parts of the US. I'm sure a lot of people who travel to the US, especially the interior parts of the US, they know a lot of teen pregnants and teen boys. They stand with a lot of hoarding saying that teen mother, help me. We believe everything on social media is true. I know so many women look at others' life thinking that, oh my God, look at their life, it's so perfect. But
And
look
I also believe that's how it has to be.
that's completely stupid because you're sort of comparing somebody's Instagram reel with your Aadhaar card and then, math is not mathing.
Do you think money is important in life?
I think, Abu, money is very important in life. I think one Shah Rukh Khan
Yeah, I just got reminded of that.
interview where I really love it. You speak philosophy after making
Money.
right?
Make sure you have enough money when you say
You have
money is not needed.
money and then you speak about everything else. But then even you do not have money and then you're like, talking about money or talking about life. Nobody wants to listen.
Hi Padmini. Welcome to Time Billionaires Club podcast.
Yes. Thank you.
It's-
Thank you for having me, Abu.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to host you. So tell me Padmini, let's start with your early life.
So என்னோட early life வந்து செம்ம இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்கான ஒரு early life.
I know that. Still, I want viewers to.
Yeah. So I think it's a very interesting actually. I'm from Chennai
Okay.
and born and brought up ஒரு வேளச்சேரி காட்டுத்தாங்கல்
Okay.
கிரண்டி அந்த ஏரியா தான். I studied in a school called ECI Matriculation சொல்லிட்டு around ஈகாட்டுத்தாங்கல். So நான் actually mix of schools படிச்சிருக்கேன். நான் ஒரு 4-5 schools படிச்சிருக்கேன்.
Okay.
Where I had an opportunity to interact with a lot of people. I've also studied like full Tamil medium school. Also matriculation schools. Matriculation schools, you have this lower range, higher range, mid range. So I've had like a mix of experiences depending on my mother's financial situation at that year. Things just change. So I think when I look at my childhood, it's just full of stories. It's just full of experiences. It's just full of people. So I'm so glad and grateful I've had an opportunity like that in my childhood.
Okay. So after school, where did you study in college?
So after my school, I studied visual communication from
Okay.
Etharaj.
Ah,
Etharaj is another very interesting segment in life. It's a ladies' college, and Viscom was a very new course. And people who finished Viscom also never got any jobs at that time.
okay. This was in the year of?
So I finished my Viscom in 2011.
Okay.
Started in 2008.
Okay.
So it was an interesting years at that time as well. So I wasn't really sure. Like usually people say when you're not sure about what you want to do in life, you study Viscom, right? I mean, people also talk about the same around engineering, but engineering is for max students. So I went into this and every semester you have like 6-7 subjects. All 6-7 subjects are completely different. One, you read about storytelling. One, you read about drawing. The other is about filmmaking. One is about acting. So every semester, you just have six new things that you learn, but you're not an expert in anything, right? Like end of the third year, you're like free to choose whatever you want.
Okay.
that-
Now I can understand why you're an entrepreneur.
I think you have a point. Yeah, you do not know anything, then you can become an entrepreneur. So I finished it in 2011, and then I started my career. Again, my career was like a mix of things. I was part-time working at Hello FM
Okay.
as an RJ plus a lot of other stuff. Then I moved to Times of India again as a part-timer, as a designer and for the Chennai Times. Then as a campus recruitment, if you remember, those are the times where we had a lot of recession. So every company was taking its own time to call the employees. So Cognizant happened as a visual designer. I was working there for a year and then I went to PayPal. PayPal was like my lifetime settlement. At least I thought so at that point in time. I was working at PayPal for 7, 8 years where I've had my ups and downs, learnings. I would say I've actually grown up at PayPal. That is when
Okay.
I understood myself because for anybody to do well in life or to be happy in life, when I say well, it's about understanding yourself. There is a personal mastery that's required, right? It starts from your health, it starts from what I really like, how much you understand your inner child, how much you understand yourself first. So that sort of started at PayPal. And that's when a lot of things happened financially. And I'm glad that happened. And post that, I was working in a company called Change Healthcare. It's a much smaller company based in
So,
the US.
sorry to interrupt. So, you were in PayPal for 7 years.
That's right.
So, you started from which designation and where did you end
Huh.
up in 7 years?
Like the 7 years, though it was the same company, I think I would have done some 5, 6 different kind of roles
Okay.
altogether because I started as a product designer, then moved into a UX designer. And from UX designer, at that time, I thought I am doing UX designing, but then it was a little different. And I started learning a little bit about technology, moved into product management, then a technical product manager, then a consumer product manager. So I think it was all, and then the senior roles on the same. So here in India and also in the US, shuttling back and being a new mother. So it was a complete package of multiple roles. I didn't mention about a new mother because that was also another role that I had to play along with playing another roles.
So, after PayPal, you moved to?
After PayPal, one of my ex bosses poached me into a company called Change Healthcare.
Okay.
They wanted to come here and then set up their center, probably as a very early employee in India. I picked it, and then 1.5 years I was working here and Nashville. It was like shuttling from Nashville and India. And then at 29, age 29, I thought maybe I'll quit. I'll look at the next segment of my life because almost for 10 years I was working. From 19, I was working, and at 29, I thought maybe I was fixing a lot of things financially, like, settling things for my mother and buying a house, buying a car, buying this and that. Like, as people, we want to do few things, right? You feel those are settlements. You get married, you have a child, at least you think at that age. I felt like at 29, I've done all. No, maybe I'll live for myself, do something for myself. And then 2020, I quit, and here we are.
Nice. So, what happened after 2020?
So 2020, I quit, and then I didn't know what to do. I started writing a book called Myths and Millennials.
Okay.
I was talking to a lot of women. That was COVID, and I was jobless, and I was just having Zoom meetings with different women across the world. I used to set up like 3, 4 Zoom meetings every day with random women, and I was a member of this community called Women in Product.
Okay.
And I used to send the message to the group, hey, I'm like working on something. If you'd like to talk to me for 20 minutes, I would love to. Then I'll set up the meeting and then I'll talk to random people. And, every woman would share their story. And just like you and me are talking now, I would just talk to them. I wouldn't record that meeting. They'd say everything about them. And it was fun. Then, with those stories, I wrote the book called Myths and Millennials, and then I released it for my 30th birthday, which is
Oh.
October 24th and 2020. And I said, okay, now I have to do some serious stuff. 1 year I've been doing this fun stuff, and
So, you reached this point, after settling you and your family financially,
yes,
you were figuring out what's next. Am I right?
exactly. Yeah.
So, tell me this thing, Padmini. Okay, I can understand how your brain works,
Yeah.
but a person coming from a humble background, what makes you, always keep thinking about what's next?
See, I think that's very important. All of us should, really think about what's next.
But internet is all about let's get financially free and retire.
I don't know. What would you do if you figure out everything about life, save money by 30? What are you going to do next?
You didn't plan for a world trip or something?
See, the thing is, world trip will eventually happen. Like by then, I've traveled also to the US and many parts of the world, and I mean, it was happening. It's a journey, right? It's not like, okay, I will retire, now I'll go.
There's
on a world
nothing
trip.
called destination.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't believe in the journey, then destination can never happen. You will never know what is the destination if you don't believe in the journey, right? So yeah, when I quit, I didn't go to lot of parts of the country, part of the world. I didn't have a lot of things that I wanted, but still, you can't still be going to the job. And I've done that for 10 years. I know how it works. I sort of felt, okay, what next? Because it's our responsibility, keeping the financial side aside, to keep our life happy. And every morning you just wake up and be enthusiastic about the day. You really look forward to the day. And I think it's your responsibility. So I thought maybe let me give a shot. What worst is going to happen, Abu? Like, what worst is going to happen? You will anyways find a job in some company where you are right now. You will come back here anyways. So nothing worse. Nobody's going to die. Nothing worse.
Okay, so you launched a book and then you realize it's all serious now.
Yes.
What happened? I was told you also got a grant from the Indian government.
Tamil Nadu government.
Tamil Nadu government. This happened after your book launch?
Of course, yeah. After I started my company is when I got the grant.
Okay.
So
what grant is this? Can you explain about
so
it?
it's called there is a institution called Startup TN, and yes, and then I think I was probably the cohort number 1 or probably 2. That's when they launched it. So you just have an idea and then you have a business, and the business makes sense to them, and they would give you a grant, and it's actually a bunch of tests, and you talk to people, you pitch it to people. That
it's kind of an incubation center.
It is. I don't know now. Probably they work like an incubation center. They take equity and they.
It's still available now.
It's still there. It's still there.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. It's going to be.
People who are looking at this video.
Absolutely. It's still there. Startup TN is very, very active. They've been helping a lot of entrepreneurs in their early stage to kickstart something. And then, of course, if your idea is good, things will just.
So, how much grant you got initially?
I got 10 lakhs grant. They still give 10 lakhs if I'm not wrong.
So, then what did you do?
So, yeah, the grant happened. I mean, even before the grant happened, I thought I'll start something for women because I was talking to women for 1 year now. Maybe one pattern that I did find is women's health is sort of taken for granted because women themselves, they do not prioritize their health. They prioritize too many things, too many other things. Like you go to any village from India and then ask any girl if you've ever used a Fair and Lovely or any fairness cream or a moisturizer, the answer is mostly yes. But if you go to the same village and then ask any girl, hey, have you done your annual blood checkup or a HPV vaccine? Have you seen your gynecologist in the past 18-20 months? I'm sure the answer is at least 80 to 90% no.
No. Oh, okay.
So, where are we prioritizing our health here as women? And then they look at their health only when they're about to get married or when they want to get married or when they are pregnant. So I thought maybe the narrative here has a void and I can do something sensible because I'm a mother myself. I've seen people struggle in this space and I've been talking and I'm a product manager. I understand technology. How can I do something different? So that's when I came up with this app called Mind and Mom. And once we launched, we've got like 10,000 people download and then use it. Only then the Startup TN grant happened.
How did you get 10,000 people to download it?
So we launched this app, and then like I told you, I was also part of a lot of women communities, and we've done some crazy stuff like in Hindu temples, the women will tie this tottil, right, the Krishna tottil, in the trees, on the trees, and then we used to put the sticker in the trees, and sometimes we go stand there and then tell people who are trying, like,
Okay.
try this app as well. You can get pregnant very easily. And like when you do not have a lot of money, you were like super creative,
Yes, yes.
right? When you have a
Innovation comes from frugality.
yes, I always believe it, and I still say that. So you can like sort of get ideas when you have nothing. And my very humble upbringing also taught me on how differently we can work on that. So 10,000 people, word of mouth, of course, app is good. At the same time, like community, WhatsApp messages, apartment message groups and all that.
What is this app about?
This app is about for women about their health. Like we believed when once you track your periods properly, you can track a lot of things about your body. And because your irregular periods and your all of a sudden obesity or thyroid or anything around your irregular periods can say a lot about your health. And then for women who are trying to get pregnant, about their ovulation and the right time for them to try, and of course during pregnancy we also help them track their pregnancy. So these are the three things that we were helping them with the app. It was a complete free app, and then there were a couple of premium services that we charged, but mostly it's a free app. And for me, I thought maybe let me launch it. Like, I don't know if I will do it now, but at that time, I'm like, let me just launch it. Let me see how this goes, where this takes me. But beautifully, it took me to the right place, meeting right people. But then startup TN happened, and then a lot of friends and family round on funding happened, and then HNI funding happened. Yeah, it's been 4 years since this journey started.
So, Padmini, like I saw recently you rebranded your company, and why did it happen? Previously it was Mind and Mom, and now it's like
Life Women.
Life Women. Why?
Yes. I think, Abu, is a beautiful question because when we call it as Mind and Mom and then have it as an ecosystem for women, there are a lot of women who do not want to be mothers also. And when we say motherhood is your choice, you can't force women to be like Mind and Mom. So we rebranded it as Life Women. So now we are more holistic from menarche to menopause, and we help women, whatever the choice could be. It could be, hey, you know what, I don't want to become a mom. I just want to freeze my eggs. Or I don't want to be having this now. I'll probably want to have it later. Give me options. So till menopause, we support in different ways. Also, as an app, you were like, you're only supporting as a, vitamin, but then now we are a chain of women health hospitals where you are like more of a painkiller, where you can help them a little more deeper and understand them, because when the doctors come in, they help you like 100%. So it's become a little serious and little closer to women now.
Okay. So I read about your journey. You did a project in US, right? Like how teenagers
Yes.
become pregnant. Can you talk about that?
Sure. While I was working at Change Healthcare, I was working on a credit product for teen pregnant girls.
Okay.
And this was like me in Nashville and St. Louis for 2.5 months and doing only user research, like the same thing, like, talking to these girls and then understanding what they do and why did they land up here and all that, right? But I'm also a South Indian mother. When I look at 14-year-old girls who are pregnant, you're obviously not okay. You're culturally like, why would you do this to yourself? And B, you're like, why would you do this to yourself? Because, your health is like sort of ruined. Then I realized, how unaware these girls are, and sort of understood, like fourth, fifth days, I was having a very good conversation with these girls. And then I realized how normalized it is in some part of the world that, to have such unawareness, because they will have mothers who are like 35 years old. These 14, 15-year-old girls will have mothers who are 35 years old, where this teen pregnancy also runs in the family sorts.
Oh.
Yeah, because see, there are quite a lot of unawareness, right? When you're in India and then look at it, you would be like, why? But it's such a developed country, but still there are quite a lot of pockets in the world where it's quite normal, and people just take it as easy, and they're okay to live that same life for generations together. Yeah. So it was an interesting thing, and I'm sure a lot of people who travel to the US, especially the interior parts of the US, they know a lot of teen pregnants and teen boys. They stand with a lot of quoting saying that, teen mother, help me. And this is a very common scene. Yeah, it's a very common scene if you go to this very interior parts of the US.
Okay. So I get this question in my mind now, Padmini. When I see my mom and dad, right? Now it makes a lot of sense. My dad is always healthy, and my mom, she always gets something. She has knee
Yeah.
pain, she has back pain, and she got married early,
Yeah.
and she got her first child around 1920. Are you trying to say that could be the reason, or how it works?
See, I really think 1920 and then mother may be okay, maybe not, but then how much they take care of themselves, right? I was a mother when I was 23, so not much of a difference, but then how much you take care of yourself makes so much sense. Like at home, if our dads are unwell, mom takes care of everything. Everybody is like rushing to the hospital, trying to put him, comfort him, and all that. But then when the mother is unwell, she's still cooking, she's still managing the house, she's still doing things that she has to do. That's when the problem is, right? Like women are supposed to go to the doctor, check their blood and vitals every once in a year. And when they get sick, they have to go see the doctor. But they sort of push it. And at one age, like everything is like compounding into together. And then you sort of get a knee pain. And, when you're very close to menopause, everything just shows up. That's the reason.
Okay, Padmini, since you spoke about women's health, you're also a woman. Tell me, like, how healthy you are and how your family is supporting you in this, women's health journey.
Okay. How healthy am I? I try to be healthy. And I really, really think more than any money that we make or assets that we do, ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ತಾಂಡಿ, I think the blood report of every year that you take, where how many deficiencies you have you worked on your lifestyle? Is a PCOD in control? Is a thyroid in control? Are you like healthy that you're able to wake up and be energetic about the whole day? I think those are the most important assets. And
We can find all these things from a blood test, is it?
most of it, I mean, see, the thing is like you can know almost 90 to 100 attributes about your body in a general simple blood test.
Okay.
Apart from that, like let's say you're like always sleepy in a day, and post lunch you're like always feeling to have a nap and all that could be some vitamin deficiencies. And if you have any painful periods, that's also being unhealthy, right? That could be because of PCOD, and you're putting on a lot of weight. That could be again because of thyroid or PCOD. So these things are connected to the blood test that you have, and your calcium deficiency is connected to the knee pain and everything that you have. A lot of women, they fix the skin a lot with creams and peels and whatnot. Instead, if they focus a little bit internally about their gut health and what they eat, what they put inside their body, if they actually focus a little bit on that, they can actually have a very good hair, very good skin. And I think a lot of people miss on that.
It's not what goes, outside, it's what goes inside.
I think what is outside is very, very less in percentage, because I used to struggle with a lot of acne. I've not really discussed about it a lot in social media, but I think ever since I turned 12, I've had horrible acne that I used to hate my own face, and then I've put everything possible from toothpaste to cream and this and that. Depending upon your financial situation, what you put on face also sort of changes. But then only after mid 20s is when I realized how much you take care of your body and what you eat and how healthy you are is directly related to how you look.
Okay.
And then it's a game changer. And of course, I still use a lot of cream and all that. But the base is how healthy you are. Like, are you working out? Are you, doing that exercise and sweating. That is like 90%, and 10% is all your Korean 9-step, 10-step creams that just comes. Yes. So I try to take care of myself so well. I try to be in shape. I go to strength training at least twice or thrice a week, and then cardio. And I try to change the workouts differently. So it's interesting.
Okay. I just wanted to understand your personal life. How did you meet your husband?
Okay. So I knew my husband from my childhood.
Oh,
Yeah, I knew him from my childhood, and then I met him again in a wedding when I was 19, and then we got married when I was 23.
okay.
Then, yeah, here we are, 12 years of marriage, going good.
What is doing now?
So he is an entrepreneur as well. So he runs a company called Just Show.
Okay.
And yeah, he is busy in his own entrepreneurial world, and I'm this.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys are two entrepreneurs in one house. How do you guys manage, personal life?
I think it's just like, how we were managing as working professionals.
Okay.
Quite honestly, a lot of people say once you're an entrepreneur, you do not get time at all and you become very busy. But I think while we were working, we had no work-life balance. Like I was working for some US clients that I'm on calls all night, and then he was working for Swiggy, which is like, very happening in a daytime. And I think we had no work-life balance. But then once we got into entrepreneurship now, I think it's quite balanced, and but I also think it's a lot of work. Marriage is a lot of work. It's a full-time job. Like what you do, you should just make time for it, and you should do things that you both enjoy. It could be watching TV or going for a movie or going on a vacation, like you said. It could be anything, but you also understand that these are like two different individuals, but at the same time, you just decide to live a life together. At the same time, you can't be like too close, or you cannot suffocate each other with your whole choice. Like you have to be doing everything with me. Like, it could be vacation, it could be, whatever it should be with me. That will also become very suffocating. At the same time, you cannot grow apart in a way like, you just live your life, I live my life, and then we live a life. So just finding that balance is all about marriage to me.
It's about partnership, right?
It's about partnership. It's about companionship. Yes.
So, Padmini, you mentioned your childhood was very colorful and full of people. Tell me something interesting about your childhood.
Yes, you're right. Like my childhood was so much fun with a lot of people, and my mom. There's probably one beautiful incident where my mother used to sell flowers outside a temple. I've mentioned about this in multiple other interviews as well, where you see a lot of different kind of women come buy those flowers for the puja and all that, right? And the temple is where I pretty much grew up. That's still in Ikatatangal, where I've met different kind of people, different kind of cars, different kind of bikes, and their own wish or desire, like how much they buy a small flower to pray for something so big inside the temple. And all those things really gave me a lot of colors. When you say colors, colors to how life was. And this particular incident where a lot of people used to come buy flowers for my mother, right? And every day, this one particular car that came and bought flowers from my mom. There's a driver who came, and then this particular car was very, very different. It was very long, white, and it had a logo of a triangle. And I was telling my mother constantly that, Mom, if we are ever buying a car, we should buy this car, not the Ambassador, not this
And what
car.
car is it?
And then when I joined PayPal, and then almost in my mid early 20s, I bought a Benz car, which is the triangle car. So I think dreams come true. That's a different thing, but at the same time, that also taught me that no matter where you are, you're allowed to dream as big as possible. I'm not saying Benz car is the biggest thing, but now everybody has it. But still, it's okay for you to think big, and I'm sure if you're very sure about it, it's gonna come true. So incidents like this, like, taking a D70 from Velachery to Ikattangal, going there to school, because every day to school I was taking this bus from 4th standard. Now my daughter is in 6th standard. I don't think I'll let her go in a bus from Velachery to Ikattangal, but I used to take from 4th standard, and then the kind of people I met, and the conductor Anna, and the people who gave me seat because I'm such a small child. So to answer your question, I think if you observe, life is very interesting. If you choose to observe, life is very interesting. So sometimes you just meet who is just 20 years old but full of life, full of self-awareness, and you will also meet people at 50s and 60s who are absolutely have no sense about what's happening around. It's only because you choose to observe what's happening around you, and that's what makes your childhood or even adulthood happy and colorful.
Nice. So you're a positive person from childhood, is it? Because okay, I can understand you might have had financial struggles when you were young, but you don't seem to mention any of that, and you always have this eye for looking at the beautiful things of life.
Yes, because life is beautiful. I'm very grateful. God has sent here with a good health and all the opportunities out there. If I'm like sitting here and then complaining why my father wasn't rich, my mother wasn't rich, I think I'm so dumb. Because there are quite a lot of things in the world that you can go conquer. See, if you and I are like playing a game and then you are in stage 17 and then you hand over the phone to me, what's the whole fun? The whole fun is playing it from level 1. First of all, I'm not ready or prepared for 11, 17, and I'm not interested. The points that I have is not something that I made. So I really like my life and I try to keep it, and every single day is so important to me. And I try to keep the people around me happy and purposeful as much as I can. But I keep myself happy as a step number 1 first.
Okay. What would one advice you would give a youngster who just finished, let's say, school at 17 years old, and again they might be considering to study or pursue Viscom? What would be one advice? Whether you would ask them to pursue college first, then explore, having in mind that they are also going to come from a humble background, who might think they don't have rich parents. What would your advice be? And why I'm asking you this question is, a lot of youngsters ask me about this question. What should I do
Degree
next?
important.
Yeah, it's degree important, and they are always like, I don't have enough money to figure out things in life. I am also coming from a humble background where I didn't bring any money from home.
I really think if your question is about education, you have to study. I mean, it's very, very, very important. Maybe people might find it very conservative, but in 2025, are you saying that you still have to have a degree and all that? But I'm not saying it's degree, but you should be good at something for which learning and a format of learning is very important, especially if you're coming from a humble background, especially when your parents are not graduates themselves or do not have that family wealth already. I think education is so important. No negotiation on that at all.
Okay.
And
Once
if
they are done with
once
formal
it's done,
education,
I think you should always figure out your life or think about it, because it's not like Abu, that one morning somebody is going to come and give you opportunities and tell you, give you money and then figure out. No, it doesn't work that way, right? It is your responsibility to figure out what comes to you well, what can you do for, and then, there's a hard work, there's an opportunity. Whatever is given to you, if you do not know any of it, whatever is given to you, do well. Whatever is given to you, do 100% to it, and you will see the whole magic of things just unfolding in front of you. And the system works that way. If you're like, oh, this job I do not like, I'll wait for a good job and then I'll go find, and then next year my uncle will come and give me this. No, life doesn't work that way, right? So while I was working as a designer, I try to give my 100%. Then a product manager team saw me and then, gave me an opportunity. And then there, I again gave my 100%. Then an older ex-manager gave me an opportunity in another company with 100% hike or whatever. So were I like looking for a product manager opportunity? If you asked me at 20 if you will do a technical product manager role or an entrepreneur, I don't think I was ready for any of it. But I was just doing my 100% every single day, whatever opportunity was right in front of you. I just grab that opportunity, give my 100%, 200%, whatever is possible. So the next thing just unfolds right in front of me. And I was never in life, like, too lost, do not know what to do. Even if I'm lost, whatever is there, I'll still do the right job. I'll just wake up, show up.
Okay. So you're saying money is not needed to do something in life.
See, I think it's a very tricky question, right? If you ask me, is money important to do something in life? The answer is without money also you can start with just with your skills, just with your connects, just with whatever connections that you can make. Like I remember the first round when we had to raise Mind and Mom, I went to this ultra luxury yoga session where you will see a lot of HNIs, and I raised my first round, spoke to them, and told them about my idea. When they are concerned about their body, they already doing yoga, they are HNIs, and then out of 15 people, two accepted to put funds. Now, if somebody asks me for that, you spend some 30,000 rupees for a single session, maybe it looks very expensive, but I created that opportunity of, raising good amount from there. So you just have to be creative and then create your own opportunities, and there's no other way.
To start something in life, you're trying to say money might be required or money may not be required. It depends on the situation. But in general, do you think money is important in life?
I think, Abu, money is very important in life. I'll get very fishy when people say, money is not something very important and I don't like money or whatever. Because, even to do some good things, you need money, right? Even to help somebody or help them with education or whatever, you need money. Without money, how do you even do anything that you want? So I think one Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah, I just got reminded of that.
Yeah, interview where I really love it. You speak philosophy after making
Money.
right?
Make sure you have enough money when you
Make sure
say
you have
money is not
enough
needed.
money, and then you speak about everything else. It's all okay. It will be taken. People will respect it. Probably people might even follow it. But then when you do not have money, and then you're like, talking about money or talking about life, nobody wants to listen. Making ethical money, good money, it's all important because that makes the money making a journey more sustainable and scalable. But if you ask me, is money important? It is very, very important.
So let's talk about your book now, Padmini, Myths and Millennials. So what are the myths you have spoken about in the book?
இப்போ வந்து அந்த புக் வந்து ஒரு 5 years old book ஆயிடுச்சு.
Okay.
So, but I think it's still very, very relevant. And I spoke about a lot of myths that surround how especially women are raised with a lot of systems or stereotypes. Like, for example, we are always told to respect elders, which is a great thing. பட் ஆனால் எல்லா எல்டர்ஸும் கரெக்ட் கிடையாது. அவங்க சொல்ற எல்லா விஷயமும் கரெக்ட் கிடையாது. Like that includes our parents, right?
True.
They've had a path and they've done what is good for us. All that is great, but they also do not know the entire life, and there's a good chance that they are wrong. But for some reason, we are always told, பெரியவங்களை பார்த்த உடனே காலில் விழு, அவங்க சொல்றது கேளு, you just be quiet, do not, say anything against them. I think those are like so systematically put that, sometimes you just don't stand up for yourself at all. And social media is another thing where we believe everything on social media is true. I know so many women look at other couples and others' life thinking that, oh my God, look at their life, it's so perfect. But
And
look
I
at
also believe that's how it has to be.
that has to be, right? Like, அப்படி கிடையாது. And then looking at somebody's skin or, how they dress, the kind of bags they have, the kind of insecurity other women develop is completely stupid because you're sort of comparing somebody's Instagram reel with your Aadhaar card, and then, it's not, math is not mathing. So these are kind of myths about why women can choose not have a child, or sometimes as women we are told we're very weak. And this particular incident of there was a small police case um, around our area, and then there was a call from the police station that I was working at PayPal at that time, and they said, you have to come to the police station, J7 police station. And then I got petrified because I've seen police only on movies or probably from the distance in real life. I've never been to a police station and I don't know, it's very scary. And I asked my manager to come with me
Okay.
because I was at work and I used office transport. I asked if he can come with me. He said, I can drop you. And then while dropping at the station, I asked him, Malcolm, can you please come inside with me? I'm a little scared to go in. He's like, why are you so scared? Because I'm a woman going alone to the police station is not something that I'm very comfortable with. He said, Padmini, you think being a woman is your weakest point, but in places like this, being a woman is your strength. It's your strongest point. You can go get things done just being a small girl and little work. And I think those are myths that's told to us, including me, that there are some places that as a woman you cannot go, it's not safe, or whatever it could be, right? The taboo around that. So I've spoken about those things in the book, and the book is still selling pretty well. And yeah.
Okay, since you mentioned it's a 5-year-old book, I somehow get the gut feeling you're going to write, or you're in the process of writing the next
Yes,
book.
yes, I keep writing books, and
Okay.
I keep writing, and yes, my other books are also coming in the
Okay.
coming years. Yes.
So tell me, what are your future plans, Padmini? See, as an entrepreneur, everyone wants to build a unicorn.
Yeah.
So what are you building, and how it is so far, and what's the way forward?
Yes, I think it's very interesting take on startups that everybody wants to build an unicorn, right? But Abu, I'm going to tell you something unpopular. I really want to be a cockroach where, you sustain, you are recession proof, you make profit. The growth might not be not like, any other startup where, you're constantly growing, your valuation is just jumping to roof all the time. Instead, I believe in building something scalable and sustainable, maybe a little slow, but at the same time, makes so much sense in a longer run. And I want to build something like that. Might not be accepted by a lot of people, but even to my investors who always say, Padmini, I want to make 100x in 2 years. I say, definitely that's not going to happen. 100x in 2 years is not going to happen. Maybe you can invest in something like Bitcoin or whatever works for you. But this is women health, and it is going to grow only in the phase, but it has grown in the 5 years. It has grown to this stage, which I think is a phenomenal growth. At the same time, to me, the growth is the 2 lakh or 3 lakh women's life that we've touched. Of course, we've made money, and of course, we've got the popularity, we've got people, all that is great. But those are the most important metrics to me. And I think money is a byproduct. It will eventually happen when you're doing your thing right and passionate about it. You will end up making money. There's no second person about it.
Okay. Actually, I like your cockroach analogy.
Yes.
Like, it's very fresh. Me as an entrepreneur who always who always run behind revenue, this is a very different
Abu,
approach.
actually, cockroach is a very, very interesting creature. Like, it's been there for thousands and thousands.
I've read about this in my.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sure, it's been there, and you put it inside a microwave oven, you put it on a tawa, it goes, it just sustains without head, without food. It just lives for 4 5 days. It's just phenomenal. It can even lose any part of the body. It still lives. So I really love the whole concept of cockroach. So if people ask me, are you building a unicorn? I'm definitely looking forward to build a big business. But I know as a animal, if you have to associate with me, I would associate with cockroach.
Speaking of myth, what's your take on feminism, Padmini?
I think, Abu, to me, feminism has a different definition, right? It is definitely not hating men. It is definitely not telling women can do everything by themselves. Yes, women can, just like men can. But feminism is about equal opportunities. You are here, I am here, there is a problem. You can also take and solve it and then build a business, and I can also do it. If there is an equal opportunity for you and me, I think that's feminism and that's good enough. Unfortunately, a lot of women still do not have that. Probably even what I have as an equal opportunity, a lot of women do not have it in a lot of parts of the world and a lot of parts of the country. So I think still the dialogues or conversations about feminism is important, but feminism is not a lot what a lot of people believe
It's been
as.
portrayed in a wrong way, right?
I think it is like a lot of pseudo feminism also happens where, marriage is not good, things like that. That is a very retarded concept of, I really think you and I are equal and I have to respect you just like you respect me. I have to take you as an important person here, just like you do that to me. Same with the marriage, right? My husband and I are like equal partners. It's not like just because I'm a woman, I shouldn't do few things or couldn't do few things. It's not that. It's just about you and I have the same base. And from there, how much you build, how much I build, how much access you get, how much access I get, that's all up to us.
So you're saying you're not running behind revenue. You don't want to become a unicorn at a certain speed. You'll have your own pace. So what are you currently building? What are the challenges you're facing?
Yeah, just to correct your question, it's not like I'm not behind revenue. Revenue is an important part of the business, and definitely there is a lot of weightage in whatever we do, and the business, because that's how you pay the people here, and that's how like any other business runs, right? Maybe am I chasing to become a unicorn like in the next few years? Maybe yes, maybe no. But our business is a women health business altogether with the help of AI. We just make women health much more accessible and possible. And like we started as an app, and now we are also a physical center. It's a phygital model where you first see the doctor online, or try to connect with us online, and then one fine day you just come here, see the doctor. We focus a lot on preventive health, because after you get something and then solving and doing a surgery is one angle, but then how about you and I solve the problem right away, even before that becomes a prime problem? So that's where most of our focuses are on. And our goal is to expand across South India, just to focus in South India first. And right now we are more of a Chennai based company. Still, most of our clientele come from Chennai, who does IVF, the gynae surgeries, general preventive health, HPV vaccines, about cervical cancer, everything about women from menopause to menopause. But our expansion plans is like, how do we get to more places, see more women, help more women with the help of AI? So that's our core idea right now.
So Padmini, when I hear stories about couples trying to get pregnant, it's always, again, it can be a myth that, I always hear a story the women has issues. Is it true? Like, I want to understand how much percentage it's a women's health issue and how much percentage it's a men's health issue.
I think it's equal.
Okay.
It is men are also equally involved when it comes to infertility.
Why it doesn't come out? Why the
Because
story
men
doesn't come?
pretty smart. No, not like that. But usually when it comes to pregnancy or trying to get pregnant, women will have to go through a lot of treatments, starting from taking a hormonal injection. There is a lot of things that women will have to go through, wherein men, their part is probably very few percentage. So maybe they don't have to go to the hospital much and sort of take that in the IVF journey. Adnala, maybe people think that way, but when it comes to infertility issues, they're equally
Equal.
in fault. Yes.
Okay. So, how AI is helping people in this process?
So when it comes to AI, I think we are in the most beautiful times of AI so far, right? Because till now, AI was only, or technology was only disrupting segments or domains of people. But now AI is disrupting even the coders, even the engineers, whoever is doing the coding,
No,
right?
speaking of this, sorry to interrupt, I got reminded of Sam Altman's
Altman.
tweet. He said ChatGPT can be a $1 billion company,
Yes.
and from that one company, a single prompt can make hundreds of $1 billion company.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
know, that's very fascinating.
Powerful. It is
Yeah.
very powerful. I think we are living in that powerful times, and if we are not utilizing or making use of this time, I think it's our mistake. So anything that we are doing is becoming much easier with AI. So in our place, we had done at least 80% of our operations by AI agents, and when it comes to egg selection and embryo selection and sperm selection, we started using a lot of AI inside. We've started creating agents in-house and also started using the external ones. And I already see a lot of things getting much easier and much efficient.
I'm sorry, I don't know how this works. Can you explain me?
Sure. So when it comes to AI and it starts with an LLM, right? And then there are layers of wrappers around, and AI agents are like a digital human. Like, let's say you have somebody to do SEO for your company website on a simple term. Now AI can completely do it, like, generate that blog, put it, post it, make sure it has got all the important words and keywords, and making sure it's ranking properly. The same thing is like, generated and then made into answer and put it on Reddit. All that is done by a small agent. So you basically create agent by automating it with a lot of tools like make.com or N8N. So whatever you do a step by step is like automatically happening with AI now, and that's why I'm saying that we are in the most powerful phases. Same thing applies to choosing an egg or doing a treatment, or making sure the bill is on prompt and then the reminders are sent. Like, I'll give you an example inside the clinic. So before all this, like, there used to be a person who's taking the appointment and then writing it down, putting it on the calendar, making sure the doctor is aligned with this particular patient, meeting them on time. And then there's a reminder sent and then the feedback received. Now everything is done by an AI agent.
Okay.
And this is done for all the patients. And now look at the scale. So this is like probably the best times. Any business that you are in, wherever you are, whatever resource you have, you can choose and start doing AI. And it is going to be the future. There is no other option. It's not like people speculating. We are already there. We are living in the future. So I think it's our time to pick up AI and then start running.
Nice. So, Padmini, you're in a very noble profession. Can you share us one happy or success story?
I think I keep seeing a lot of success stories. Like every woman who come here and then come out of some sort of an illness, or when they try to get pregnant and then they get pregnant and then have the child. I think those are the most beautiful and the happiest days of my life. Though I'm not a doctor and then I am not like the one who's doing it, I'm still playing a small part of it, of running this place or running this business, gives me a lot of satisfaction, especially when people have a lot of failed IVFs already and then they lose hope, and somewhere they see a new brand and then probably they see me on LinkedIn and they would come and then they try and then they get pregnant, especially when they are 40 plus and with multiple failed IVF. Those are like few stories that I will never forget. I'm still very friends with them, and they're in connect with me. They send me this children's picture, the child's picture. Those gives me a lot of happiness. That's also an important currency when you are like building something.
This should give you a sense of satisfaction, right?
Yes.
The journey you were talking about,
Yeah.
creating
It
impact.
does.
So, Padmini, when I entered your premises, I saw this hoarding egg freezing. What is this about?
Yes. So egg freezing is nothing like what you think, like nothing to do with a recipe or food or ice cream. No. So egg freezing is basically women choose to freeze their eggs. Because like let's say when they are not ready to have a child or start a family in their late 20s or in their early 30s or mid 30s, what do? You do not know what is coming up, whether you want to have a child or not have a child, you do not know. Now, for you, it's like a choice is open that you can freeze your egg and then decide later whether to have or what to have. Because we can always say, hey, I can get married at whatever age I want, which is great, but the eggs are not going to wait for you, and your egg quality is going to go down while you age. So, for you to freeze the time, you freeze your egg, and at life we do that as well. That's the hoarding that we saw.
Okay, nice. This is actually first time I'm hearing
Yeah.
about this.
Because there was a time where I actually made a post about egg freezing that we do for 99,000 rupees. Actually, a food blogger said that, I know, what exactly is egg freezing? Is that a kind of an egg ice cream or something? You know. So yeah, I think it's a very new word to a lot of people here.
Okay, Padmini, it was nice talking to you. I loved this conversation and I learned, one or two new things today. Thank you for this podcast. Before ending this, I want to ask you one last question, which is what advice you would give a young Indian middle class women who just wants to start with their career?
I started my career with nothing, working as a part-time RJ, and then going to Times of India as a designer, then Cognizant, then PayPal, then US, and starting from 12,000 rupees, or I think in an ad agency I was getting 5,000 rupees salary. Then to when I quit my job, I was having a salary package of, including my equity, somewhere around 75 lakhs. So I think it's totally possible. All that you have to do is love what you do, and then put your everything, pour yourself into it, and then run. I think everything will just wind up and open up depending upon what is right. Like from here, I think there's a very nice story that I heard from C.K. Kumaravel sir sometime before I started, where let's say you want to go to Delhi. From home, you might not be able to see Delhi. Okay, from home, you might probably be seeing the end of the street.
End of the street.
And from end of the street, maybe get an auto, go to the airport. From airport, you can go to Delhi. So you just decide to go to Delhi, then things will just unfold depending upon your options and choices. So I will always say, just get out of the home, go see the street end first, then auto will come.
Wow, that's very inspiring. Okay, thank you very much, Padmini.
Yes, thank you
for being on
so
the
much, Abu, for actually coming all the way and doing this podcast.
It's our pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.